Hi everyone, my name is Ryan White and thank you for watching my presentation. Today I'll be talking about something very serious and unfortunately very common. It is going to be intimate partner violence, or IPV, which I'll be referring to intimate partner violence as IPV through most of the presentation. I do see it quite frequently. I do respond to quite a few calls as a law enforcement officer, and let's start with a little fact. According to the CDC, about 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men in the United States experience some form of IPV in their lifetime. So understanding why this happens is really important. In this presentation, I'll be going over 5 main theories that help explain IPV. We have psychological or individual theory, social learning theory, feminist and sociological structural theory, the ecological theory, and lastly, the cycle of violence. I'll also include some research from government websites and academic sources to support each one. Let's get started. We have psychological and individual theory. This theory looks at personal factors, basically what's going on inside someone's mind. Some people who commit IPV may have mental health problems like personality disorder, low impulse control, or trauma from their past. For example, someone with antisocial personality disorder might be more likely to use violence without feeling guilt. Substance abuse is also a big part of this theory. The United States Department of Justice reports that alcohol and drugs are often present in IPV cases. Being under the influence can make people more aggressive and less likely to think before they act. And it's definitely a big factor I do see that causes a majority of these actual instances that I have to respond to. But here's the thing, this theory is helpful, but it doesn't explain everything. Not everyone with mental health issues become violent, and not all abusers have mental illness. So we have to look beyond just the individual. So we have the social learning theory. This one I found quite interesting. Social learning theory says that people learning behaviors by watching others. This means someone might grow up in a home where one parent abuses the other, and over time they come to believe that violence is normal in the relationship. I do find sometimes in some of my calls that I do respond to, it can be the quite opposite actually to this kind of theory. So I kind of find it interesting to kind of debate it just because I feel like a majority of people that actually have experienced it do have a different view. This theory was developed by Albert Brunner, who showed that people imitate what they see, especially when they're young. The CDC says that children who grow up witnessing domestic violence are more likely to be involved in violent relationships as adults. This theory makes a lot of sense because it explains why IPV can be passed down through generations. It also shows how early intervention, like teaching kids about healthy relationships, can make a big difference. And then we have the feminist and sociological structural theory. Feminist theory looks at IPV from a bigger social point of view. It says that violence is about power and control, especially in a society where men have more control than women. This theory argues that abuse happens because some men feel entitled to control their partners. Tools like the power and control wheel from the Dulce model explains how abusers use things like isolation, threats, blame, not just psychological violence, to dominate their partners. I do have to say, in my years of law enforcement experience, I've responded to quite a few females actually pertaining to the actual causing the actual violence in the home. So this theory I kind of find is could be kind of argued on, but it does have quite a few points in it because majority of the abuser is actually going to be male, but quite a few that aren't reported are going to end up being males that are getting abused themselves. One important thing, this theory shows that IPV is not just about losing your temper, it's often a planned pattern of behavior. But critics say it might not fully apply to same-sex couples or cases where women are the abuser. Still, it gives a strong understanding of how gender roles, expectations influence violence. And then we have the ecological theory. Ecological theory looks at multiple levels of influence. It says that IPV happens because of a mix of factors at the individual relationships, community, and societal levels. This is one of the theories that I kind of agree more on, as well as the cycle of violence is something that I find pretty interesting. For example, a person might have personal issues like mental health, live in a violent neighborhood, and be surrounded by people who normalize abuse. All these things together increase the risk. This theory is supported by the CDC's social ecological model, which is used to design public health interventions. It's a great way to understand how complex IPV really is. There isn't one cause, but many, especially on the calls that I respond to. It is definitely a multitude of factors, and it's a shame. It all shows why prevention must happen at different levels. Therapy, community programs, changing the social norms, and improving laws. One improvement of laws I do have to say that I do appreciate is the few years ago we weren't able to arrest a person that is suspected of causing the abuse in the home, or is the obvious aggressor in a situation of a DV situation, domestic violence. The issue that we ran into is a lot of people would still be getting abused, and we weren't able to fix it as a law enforcement officer. But new case law and new laws that the state has pushed out actually allows us to now arrest the aggressor, even if the abuser or the person being abused does not want to press charges. The state can press charges. So that is one law update that I do agree strongly with. This theory, or the cycle of violence, this theory was created by a psychologist, Lori Walker. Says that abuse in relationships often happen in a cycle with 4 stages. Tension building, the abuser becomes more irritable or angry. The incident of actual abuse happens, physical, verbal, or emotional. Reconciliation, the abuser apologizes, gives a gift, or blames stress. And then calm, things seem normal, but the tension starts to build back up. Many victims stay in abusive relationships because the cycle gives the false hope that things will get better over time. They may develop things called a battered woman syndrome, where they feel helpless or stuck. This theory helps explain how abusers become a pattern, or abuse becomes a pattern, and why it's hard for victims to leave, but it's is also important to know that not every IPV case follows the exact cycle. To wrap it up, intimate partner violence is a serious issue, and understanding the theory behind helps us find real ways to prevent it. Whether it's through psychological, social patterns, or gender roles, or community environments, every theory gives us a piece of the puzzle. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I hope you see how complex IPV is, and why it's important for us to look at the big picture and to try to stop it. Thank you.